Welcome to St. Louis Comedy Stand-Up Live. I'm your host, DJ Alignment, aka StylistJohn, and the series that we have is called Comedy in the Barbershop. Why is it called Comedy in the Barbershop? Because these are some of the funniest stories by comedians every week about stories that they have about barbershops in St. Louis. If you are a fan of comedy, join my Facebook group, St. Louis Comedians. A link is going to be in the description. And network with some of the comedians, come to the shows, show love, show support, buy some merch. I give you St. Louis Comedians. I'm comedian John B. Taylor II, also known as DJ Alignment, also known as StylistJohn. I DJ. I love playing music, I love making beats, I love engineering, but I also love the barber beauty industry. Why do I love the barber beauty industry? I'm gonna take you all the way back to when I was 9 years old, when I first learned about her, watching my grandma in the kitchen. She cooking, I'm talking about like frying chicken, cabbage, sweet potatoes, gravy, like she making the works, and I'm sitting there watching her cook all this stuff, and she's stressed and tired because, you know, she's been cooking all day. She sat down at the table, she, washed her hands, sat down at the table, and she started working a relaxer on her hair, and I'm like, Grandma, what's this white stuff on your hair? And I smell, I said, ooh, it stink, what's that? She said, oh, that's relaxer. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I say, what do it do? She said, it make curly hair straight. And she said, you want to help me? And I'm like, okay. She's like, what do you do? And she said, you take this brush, you dip it in here, and then you put it on here like this. And I helped her put it on there. And as I helped her put it on there, I stopped. And she said, okay, stop. I think we got enough. Took the comb and combed her hair straight through because it had to sit for a while. And you know, when you're doing a relaxer and you got kinky hair, you got to let it sit and marinate for a minute. When I say marinate, I mean like you gotta let it relax it straight. Marinate in kinky hair, because if you take it out too soon, you're still gonna have a nappy afro. But if you take it out too long, your hair gonna be bone straight. And depending on what type of relaxer you got, you want your hair to be bone straight and silky, not bone straight and still be nappy. I done seen some nappy relaxers, but my grandma took her time to make sure that the relaxer was silky, and she used to use TCB. And I remember the smell of the relaxer when she would go to the sink, what she would call the zinc. Okay, my grandma called things the way how they called it back then. Okay, and so when I say back then, I mean she probably was like born in like the 1930s. So everything that I knew, I was born in 81. Everything that I knew and everything that she knew was 50 years difference. I say sink, she say zinc. And I'm like, Grandma, why you calling the sink the zinc? It's called a sink. She say, no, it's called a zinc. And we arguing back and forth, and I'm 9, and she like in her 50s going into her 60s, and we going back and forth. We say, ooh, you turned my pressure up. And I'm like, Grandma, it's called a sink. And I'm thinking I know everything because I done learned how to spell, and I went to spelling bees and stuff like that, but really it was called a zinc because the sink that she had, the outer porcelain area had zinc in it. And zinc is a mineral that's pretty much close to being uncorrosive, and that's the reason why I was lined with porcelain like that in zinc, because it was a real sturdy, well-made sink that she used to do a lot of stuff in. Like, when she would rinse her hair out in the sink, from doing relaxers, she would go back, she would rinse it down, she would take soap, and she would take a good thing of bleach. My grandma was a clean woman. She loved a clean house. She ain't like bugs, and if she ever seen a bug, she killed it immediately and went, grabbed a little hotel, tell everybody to move out the way, and did a thorough clean. I'm talking about like we didn't see bugs. The only bugs that we ever saw was water bugs, and they came from outside at the drain in the backyard of the house. Or sometimes they might have crawled their way into the basement, because sometimes it was an old house we lived in North St. Louis. And sometimes the basement would get like water from like the ground, and it would have like cracks in the foundation, and sometimes the bugs would crawl in like water bugs. It's the difference between family visitors and water bugs. Water bugs are way bigger, and they don't move the same as a regular roach, a family visitor. You know what I'm saying? Those that know, okay? But if you're from St. Louis and you ever been to a crib, and you ever been to a house, or you ever been to an establishment that had roaches, stand up and clap your hands. Now, by a show of hands of y'all that's watching this, how many of y'all stepped and killed on a roach? Clap your hands. Okay, so now we on the same page. Okay, so have you ever killed on a roach and the roach been in the house for so long that it became part of your family and you almost didn't want to kill the roach because the roach was cool? I'm talking about like the roach be like every time you eat, the roach there with his family eating. Every time you smoke, the roach is down there getting a puff too because you dropping the ashes down there. Have you ever had a roach that been so cool with your family where it was like part of the family too? I'm saying, you from St. Louis, you seen roaches before, you know how you step on a bug, like instantly. I done been over female friends' houses and we sitting there cooking and chilling and the bug would just crawl right up the wall and she just sitting there normal like, oh, that's Fred. Like, you got a name? You got a name for the roach? That's how you know a roach is part of your family. It's the wildest thing I ever seen. How does a roach become a part of your family? You spend time with it, you feed it, you protect it, and I guess after seeing it for so long, you become familiar with one another. You be like, Fred, now look, I got some company coming over. Don't come outside, don't come in the house, or don't come in the kitchen until he leaves. And you know, Fred like to hate, because Fred like it too. Fred's single, he a roach, he's single. You know what I'm saying? He got some kids, but he wants some more, but he like human women. And my homegirl is sitting there like, Fred, go back in the room. He heard. I got company. The roach just sitting there like, yeah, I see him too, you busted. Like, how you gonna be kicking it with me and him? And it's like a standoff. It's a standoff between the guy, who was me, that came to visit my friend, and the roach just sitting there. And I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at the roach, and I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at the roach, and I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at the roach, and I'm like, I'm finna knock the heck out this roach. And she's like, no, don't kill him, that's Fred. I'm like, hey, should we be talking right now? Or are you dating me? Or are you dating this roach? And if you're dating this roach, it says a whole lot about the women I like to date. I said I need to go change something about myself if you dating this damn roach. I'm finna get out of here. I'm up. So I dipset it. And she went after me. John, I'm not, baby, look, hold on. I'm not leaving because you got a roach. I grew up in St. Louis. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have family members' houses that had roaches. You know what I'm saying? They didn't really want the roaches there. You know what I'm saying? Every time the lights came on, the motherfucking roaches scattered. But every time the light was off, they in there kicking and having a good time, doing the same stuff that we doing in the house. We having a party, the roaches inside the wall having a party. You know what I'm saying? We eating, the roaches coming into the kitchen looking for crumbs to take it back to their kids. They no different than us. The only difference is they're crustaceous, and it said that roaches have diseases, and so we like to make sure that our house is clean of roaches. Not because we don't like them, but because we don't want to catch nothing from the roaches. And I'm pretty sure if the shoe was on the other foot, and roaches was the same size as us and we was a small size, would roaches stomp on us and laugh? Heck yeah, they would. I'm saying natural selection is something else. I'm saying a roach, probably if a roach was the same size as a human and we was the same size as a roach walking around, I'm pretty sure roaches would probably get a kick out of stomping on humans and seeing the squishiness come out. And hearing the crunch, whenever you bop it with a newspaper, like bop, you hear the crunch, they'll probably be buzzing up laughing. Can you just imagine that? Can you imagine how a roach, a 6 feet tall roach, would laugh at bopping a human being with a newspaper on the wall just trying to get some food. I can see it now. 6 foot tall roaches, kind of human-like, and they just sitting there chilling. And they smoking, you know, talking about how their day was, and out comes a human, the size of a roach, coming out of the cabinet trying to find some food because it's hungry. And I see, hey, the roach tap his partner like, hey, look, it's a human. Human, like, I see the roaches up, human trying to hide from the roaches. The roaches sitting there smoking like, see that human? Passing the, you know, the good stuff, passing the good stuff. Yeah. Should I? It's like, yeah, let's wait till we get over there. They purposely set some food out, some chicken crumbs, some grapes, some watermelon, and some Kool-Aid. What do black folks like to eat? Watermelon, Kool-Aid, and chicken. They said, all right, I got you, partner. Set it down on the countertop. Brother come out the wall, looking like, okay, coast is clear. I don't think they looking at me. Go right over there, try to get some of that chicken, watermelon, and some of that Kool-Aid. Roach grab a newspaper. Bah! I can just see it now, man. That's wild. That's the wildest thing. What if roaches was the same height as humans, and we were the same size as roaches? Would roaches bop us on the head with newspapers, and would roaches stomp on us? Yes, I believe they would. But you know what? I think as a human being, if we thought like that, we probably would have more compassion for other insects and species other than myself. Now, I myself, I really don't like killing bugs. And I'm gonna tell you why. I have done a few, you know, only the ones that have tried to hurt me and my family, like mosquitoes. A mosquito try to get his blood from me, I'm gonna bop him, okay? But grasshoppers, when I was little, I played with grasshoppers outside, and I realized they spit up like a little green juice. And I was like, ugh, what is that? But I realized like they all they do is eat grass. Like, why would I try to hurt something that's really trying to help us out? You know what I'm saying? I would take the bugs that I would find, the insects, worms, slugs, grasshoppers, crickets, you know, be outside in the backyard, adventuring in the backyard like, you know, most children and teens do, you know. But whenever I would catch a bug, like a lightning bug, I ain't seen lightning bugs in a long time, but lightning bugs, they're like bugs that used to have like this glow-in-the-dark bottom on the very bottom end of them, and they would light up. And so as they would light up, you know, when we was little, we used to go around, take our hands like this and try to catch them, and then put them inside of a jar, and you catch so many of them, it'll be like a light bulb. You just turn them upside down like this and shake them, and then all their little lights be on, and then it looked like a light. It looked like a light bulb inside of a jar. And so you have to poke holes inside of the jar so that they can stay alive, because if you kept it airtight, you know, they wouldn't be able to breathe. But, you know, I would catch them, and then I would release them. You know, I ain't want to just like, you know, like stomp on them or hurt them, because I watched this show on Sesame Street, okay, and it talked about the cycle of life, and it had a lot of spiritual things in there, and it made me kind of sensitive to living things. Like, okay, bugs are just like humans too. They just smaller. So do I want somebody to hurt me? No. Why would I try to hurt a bug? Okay, I'll take it outside and put it back in the grass and feel good about myself. I got used to doing that, except for bees that try to sting your ass, and mosquitoes that bite the crap out of you. I don't like mosquitoes, and I respect bees, because bees give awesome honey. But I don't like mosquitoes. Mosquitoes will bite the shit out of you and run. They zzz, land on you, you feel like, I feel like kind of funny a little bit, like kind of woozy a little bit, and then you feel a sting like, damn, what the fuck, and then bop, you bop the mosquito because the mosquito done try to suck your blood. Then you look up, the mosquito done been there for at least about a good minute, and the reason why you was able to bop it is because it done sucked so much blood from you and got fat from sucking your blood for so long because it done used its saliva to numb you before it tried to get away, and it then got caught because it was being too greedy sucking on your blood. So if you're gonna suck my blood, yeah, you can get out of here. Bop, get you out of here. Go on. I used to take mosquitoes and put them in the spider web to see how the spider would deal with them. You know, I'd pluck their wings and then take them and then put them on the spider web and then watch the spider go down there, grab them, and then put the web on there, and then, I'm talking about like, be gone in like probably about like a good 5-10 minutes. I used to enjoy watching that because, you know, mosquitoes used to make me suffer. I hated getting bit by mosquitoes. I'm talking about like I used to have welts on my arm. Real bad welts on my arm from mosquitoes. I'm talking about like I had to put alcohol. I figured out how to treat it, but you're supposed to put alcohol and witch hazel on your mosquito bites so that they don't swell up and they don't hurt after a while, because if you don't put something on there, then it's gonna hurt for a while. Same thing with bee stings. You gotta put alcohol and thank God that I was around with my grandma. Can we give a round of applause to grandmas? I'm just saying, like, in this day and age, grandmas is, the new 40. My grandma was in her 50s and 60s when I was hanging out with her as a young man. She was in her late 50s. My grandma died when she was almost in her 80s, and I was in my 20s. So yeah, she was like in her late 50s, 60s when I was a young man. Thank God for grandmas. I learned a whole lot from grandma. I learned how to do hair from grandma. I learned how to cook from grandma. Learned right from wrong from being around grandma. Grandma was like my first babysitter. So yeah, thank God for grandmas. Man, but back on the barbershop, because of my grandma is what gave me the passion to actually work inside the barbershop. It gave me, I got enough skill from being with Granny that gave me a drive to go to barber and cosmetology school. And I worked in barbershops. I got my first shot at a barbershop from my good buddy Ronell. Rest in peace, Ronell Burns. Well, can we give a small moment of silence for Ronell Burns? So, for y'all, those of y'all that don't know who Ronell Burns is, Ronell Burns, he was a prime American millionaire. Okay, he was my mentor, one of my mentors. And when I first got out of school at Vatterott, when I was attempting to get my cosmetology license, I had got into a real bad car accident when I was in school, and I had to come out of school because I wasn't able to maintain my work schedule, working at a factory and going to school at the same time. So when I stopped going to school, I still had my student license. And while I had my student license and I could not get back and forth to work and school, I had to let one thing go. I needed a job, so I maintained working in my job. But I realized I don't like working in factories. I don't like a supervisor yelling at me at the top of their lungs. And because I'm a big guy, I always been, big like this since probably like the age of 13 when I grew into my size. But because I'm big like this and I'm strong, they like to work the hell out of me. I'm talking about like having me lifting 100, 200-pound boxes, putting them on pallets, working the pallet jacks and the forklifts, which I don't mind doing, but I can be put under a lot of stress and maintain over a period of time. Those factories showed me how much they valued me, and so I realized just how much they valued me when I got injured. And when my back was hurting and I felt like I needed some days off, they were still trying to work me because the production line don't stop. It's, they just get another one of you and put you in there. So I realized a long time ago that if I'm going to work, I might as well do something I love doing. Now, I love working out. I love helping people. I love putting things together. And so that's two of the things that I did was work out, put things together. But what really made me go back to school and finish my education in cosmetology and barbering was because when my body couldn't take as much as it took, and I watched my mother work at Ford for a number of years, and I watched her trip over a railroad track, and she got injured in her knees, and Ford tried to play her crazy, and she had to go through the UAW. The UAW is the union of Ford, and she had to fight with the union to maintain her job while she got injured on the job, because she literally could have sued them and won. But because it's a union job and the union is a part of like a family and you pay dues to these unions, on the inside, it was some people that was against the fact that she fell and could not go to work because her leg was injured. And I was like, nah, you injured? Like nah, be off, recover so you can go back. When she wanted to return early, and I'm like, nah, mama, you gotta make sure you will, because if they don't treat you right, then I understand that when you got bills, you got us to take care of and everything, but you know, if they're not treating you right, you know what I'm saying, we need to talk to somebody. So I'm trying to argue with the supervisor. I'm like in my 20s. I'm trying to get in her supervisor's face to argue the point for my mama. But she like, nah, certain things you gotta do. You gotta talk to the journeyman, and you gotta talk to the head person over the union. So I'm like, all right, cool. She talked to the union person. The union person pretty much tried to arrange the situation where she would maintain her job. And when she was going through this, in my head, I was thinking like, yup, that's the reason why I need to go ahead and get my cosmetology license, because I'll be in business for myself, or I can work for somebody that won't put me under so much stress like working in the factory. So I finished my license. Finished the first story. Okay, so mom went back to work and she was healthy, and they tried to fire her, but the union stepped in and prevented her from being fired, and she was able to get the person that was trying to fire her ended up being moved to another location, so she was able to keep her job. So round of applause for that, because that was a blessing, but it was a fight. So that situation taught me I need to be valued. I need an education with a skill and a tool set where can't nobody take nothing away from me. So what I did was I went back to school and finished my license. And the first person that gave me a shot in the barbershop was Ronell Burns. And Ronell, he was a prime American millionaire. I'm talking about like, he was a salesman. He was a natural leader. He was a cool down to earth brother from the projects that had a wife and children, and he found his passion with insurance sales, and he wanted to tell everybody in the hood, like, you can get life insurance to change your life. You know what I'm saying? If you have a loved one pass away, you can get full term, you can borrow against the term policy. You don't got to do a fish fry to bury your family. And so from when I first started working with him, he was always talking about the insurance. I'm talking about like he had a massive group of people that followed after him. From him telling his story, and I was one of them. He gave me a shot to work in his barbershop. And it was hood. And it was right across the street from the Peabodys. I'm talking about like the Peabodys. Like, the reason why they call, well, it's different reasons why they call it the Peabodys, but it was right across the street from the Peabodys. It was a hood shop. It was a good shop. I learned a lot of game from working in there. I learned my taper fade game got on point working there, because a lot of the young men that was in school used to go over there to get taper fades. I was doing braids on a lot of the young ladies that would come over there and sew-ins, because I learned how to do sew-ins from Granny. I had a homegirl named Brittany from Texas. Man, we done got together and worked, and I helped her do like 5 sew-ins in one day. We made like $3,500 in one day for a 6-hour time frame. I was taking the sew-ins down, and she was showing me how to put them back in. She's like, take this sew-in down. We got 6 clients, right? She charging like $300 to $500 a client, and the clients is bringing their own hair. If they don't got their hair, they buying her hair. So she charging for the install, and she charging for the bundles. And so I was like, ooh, that's different than cutting her. Sewing money is different than cutting her money. I gotta cut like 50 heads to make the same amount of money as doing like 5 people's sew-ins. And so me and Brittany teamed up. I was her assistant. I would take down the sewings. I would shampoo the person's head. I would braid them back up. She showed me the braiding pattern that she wanted, and I would braid them up. And as I got done braiding them up, she'd go right to the next person, and she would take the bundles. She would start sewing the bundles in, and then she'd style it, and then she'll point to the next person. I'll be taking their sewing down. I'll be shampooing them. I'll be blowing them out, braiding them down, and then they go right next to her. And we did like 6 people in one day and made like $3,500. And I was like, that's some good money. I can, if I can duplicate this, I can raise a family off of this. So I was like, where are these women that like wearing these sewings? But I had a shop in the barbershop. I was doing braids. I was doing sew-ins. I was doing taper fades. I was doing shape-ups, boxes, and I was having a real good time. But the shop was hood. I'm talking about like on the parking lot, man, it went down. When I say it went down, I'm talking about like went down. It was fights every week. The Arabs was calling some of the sisters the N-word, and some of the brothers of the sisters was going into the store checking the Arabs like, hey man, don't you ever call my sister so-and-so, so-and-so, and the Arabs showing they got guns like this. And the brother's like, man, I don't care if you got that, look, I got mine too. So people weren't playing no games. It was the environment, but it was a very stressed environment, you know what I'm saying? But I had a real good time working there. I learned a lot of game just from being in there, just marketing, going out door to door, passing out my business cards. The mamas with sons walking around with 3-4 children. Hey ma'am, I'm a barber here at the shop. Here, come on down. We'll take good care of you. They're coming in. It was a line. I'm talking about like it was a big line of people. Some of my barber friends that were a little bit more well known, they had lines of people that would just come in for them, and they would just sit there and cut all day. I'm talking about like they did like 15-minute cuts, and I had one of my barber friends named Oh man, phenomenal barber. I'm talking about like, man, you could see his liners whenever he would line a person up. His clippers was sharp, and they was some hitters. I'm talking about like a 5-minute lineup, man. And he would get them lineups in and them taper fades and those fades, man, and he'd have a big old knot like this. And I was sitting there learning some games from him, watching him like, man, Then shout out to my boy Rad, rest in peace. Rad passed away from an accident. He was a truck driver. He was one of my cool barber friends that I worked with at the shop. And rest in peace, man. But hood barbershops, man, will teach you some things, boy. If you ever need to learn how to